Hello and welcome to Luke-N-SHAE'S Place. This is my segment that I do on Sunday. It's Shay's story time and inspiration. And I have a story for you guys today. I hope you're enjoying your Sunday. And I just want to get right into it. And for those, again, who haven't chimed in on a Sunday, every now and again on a Sunday, I will do an inspiration talk with you guys, or I will do a story, a real story that happened in my life that will hopefully inspire someone. Okay, so today's story, I'm going to call it A Huge Blessing Turned Lesson. A huge blessing turned lesson. And if you can see, I am all bundled up here. I'm recently moved to Georgia, and I was told, yeah, Georgia has jacket weather. So I'm like, okay. It feels like New Jersey here. It's cold. But I'm out here getting some fresh air, and it's not too bad, actually. So let's get started with this story. So this story, again, I call it A Huge Blessing Turned Lesson. It was about, I would say, 2012. It might have just turned it might have just been 2011. I believe it was 2012, if I'm correct. And I was single mother at the time, and I was dating. So the person I was dating, we eventually did get married, but this was like the start of our relationship. And so I was still home with my children, single mother. And at this time, I don't know if he proposed to me yet. I don't think so. I don't think I was engaged to him yet. But needless to say, during this time as a single mother, and even throughout my life, I always looked to do something better as far as my career choices, different jobs that, I interviewed for. I was always looking to do something better. And during this time, I looked at an ad for a job. It was a job that it called for actually a secretary position. That's what I believe the heading was. So I'm like, I could do that. It was going to be a job that paid more than the job that I had at the time. Had a great job at the time. I believe at the time I was assistant manager in a group home at the time. So had a promotion there, but I was always looking to do something better. This one job, it was sports related. So as I'm reading through the ad, and it was a trusted site at that time that posted ads, but also on this ad, there was also options to do. I know right now people are big into doing marketplace, there's a place where you can go and, sell different things that you have. So it had a whole bunch of different avenues that you could go on this site and do different things. Not so much a trusted site for me and anymore, but you'll figure out why I don't really go on there looking for jobs anymore. So when I applied to the job, I sent my resume, and I would say a couple days later, I actually heard back. So I was excited. I'm like, okay, it said secretary, but it said some travel. So I wanted to know more because, again, it was sports related. And I figured, and it said willing to train. So I didn't have that under my belt. And I'm like, okay, a traveling secretary. I'm like, what does this entail? So I ended up applying to it, and I heard back from it. When the person reached out to me, they told me they reviewed my resume, and the team, from what they said, the team of people that were going to be in, doing the interview, they wanted to interview me. So I was like, great. Now, at this time, I'm living in New Jersey. So I was told my interview would be in Maryland, which is a nice drive. The place in Maryland, okay, it was about a nice almost 3-hour drive from where I was in Mays Landing. So I was excited. I was like, wow, this is great. I didn't have that under my belt. Like with some of the things I did do, I was still young. I was like, okay, they're willing to train. Great. Let me hear more. So I got ready to travel to this interview, which was a couple days after they reached out to me. So when I went to the interview, told my family about it, I was excited. I think I posted it on my social media, and I was like, wow, you guys, I need your prayers because this sounds like a great job. So ventured out this almost 3-hour drive, and wow, can somebody say naive? Because wow, when I think about the story, I'm like, what? Who would have? Why? And you'll find out why when I say the word naive. Like, come on. Again, everything, there's a saying that says everything that glitters isn't gold. And this story, you'll see why I call it a big blessing turned lesson. So when I got to Maryland, I was given the address to meet at a place. Now, the place that I was given to meet at, once I got there, I'm like, okay, this looks like a huge park. I'm like, it's not even. So it was a park. I saw people doing, walking trails, and it was a beautiful park. And I gave a description of my vehicle because that was asked on the phone when I was setting up my interview. And I remember, okay, I was told, hey, we're going to meet here, just, and then we'll drive you to the place that we're doing the interview. So when I got there, the location I was told to be at, it was a public place, so I didn't feel that I was in danger or anything like that. So when I got there, a gentleman got out of a older Escalade. It was the older Escalade, and it just seemed legit. He was dressed in business attire, and he gave me a little snippet of, okay, well, we're meeting here. He said, I'm waiting for my other agents, he called them. I'm waiting for my other agents. He said, but I'm going to go over the job with you right now so that you have an idea what you applied for. So what he told me was, and let me just describe the gentleman to you. He was built, like he was really tall. He was built. And yeah, he was African American. He said he played recently. He was injured. He said not recently. He said he was injured, and it caused him not to be able to be on the team. He said that he used to play for the Baltimore Ravens. So me not being familiar with that team, I didn't know any players on that team. He said it was years prior that he played on that team. So keep that in mind. So I listened to what he had to tell me about the job. He said, well, I couldn't play football anymore, so I just I started a business where we help players. We go around, we travel, we have a set amount of people from the team or from other teams that we just send agents to. So I'm like, wow, I've heard of agents, and I'm familiar because of the movie, I believe, Jerry Maguire. So I'm like, oh, okay, you guys are dealing with some sports agents, and you're in charge of sending out these agents to help players. And so my position was supposed to be a secretary to him. He said, you'd be my direct secretary, scheduling the agents to go out. There'll be some traveling. You'll meet some football players. And I'm like, wow, this is like a dream job that wasn't my dream job, but I'm pretty sure this is something big that I stumbled on. So I thought. So as I'm getting this information, I'm like, wow, this is great. I wanted to take notes, and I wanted to, but we weren't in an office setting. But so I was just taking it all in. So he said, are you interested so far? And he told me how much it paid a year. He said, right now you're getting paid right now because I'm actually brought you here because I wanted to offer you the position. And so he's like, it's an interview, but we already had in mind that we wanted to hire you. So right then and there, I'm thinking like, wow, single mother, this is great. This is really a big step up from what I was even looking to do. Because again, I had recently got a promotion at the job that I was at. So, but this was great. This was like, I'm walking into a huge blessing. I said, God, I trust you. So I accepted it, and he told me, okay, we're going to schedule a formal meeting. And at that time, he kept looking at his phone, and he was texting on his phone. He was like, okay, my team got held up at another meeting, so it's just you and I. So I just wanted this to be like a meet and greet, go over things, kind of interview. And he's like, we were supposed to go to the office, but for now, we'll just count this. I don't want to waste your time because I don't have my whole team. It seemed legit. So he said, you know, after a little while of talking, he was like, okay, our next meeting is going to be such a date. I put it in my phone. It seemed legit. I'm like, okay. So he was like, wow, I have to go, you know, get gas. But, you know, and at the time, I drove to Maryland. So it was one of those things where, yeah, I was driving a minivan at the time, mom with a minivan, and I just, you know, me driving from New Jersey to there, I needed to put some gas in my tank. So I was like, can you tell me where the nearest gas station is? He was like, I'm going to the gas station as well, so just follow me, and it's not far from where you have to go to get back on to head back to New Jersey. Good. So I followed him to the gas station, and when I did, it was a gas station where I had to pump my own gas. Never did that before. So he was like, okay, you're from Jersey. You guys don't. He was like, oh, just hold on. So he was like, you know, I'll get you some gas. Don't worry. I'm like, great. I'm already hired on this job, and my boss is about to put gas in my tank. He was like, because again, you're being paid for your time today. This is, you know, your start day. I'm like, great. So as I'm waiting, he's doing something at his car. So his older Escalade was parked in front of my van. So I'm at the pump waiting, and he's fumbling around, and he's like looking through his car and everything. So he walks to my car, and he was like, you'll never guess what happened. And I'm like, what happened? He said, I forgot my wallet in the office. And I was like, wow, that sucks. I have a heart for people. I would not want that to happen to me. So I'm thinking, okay, well, I can get my own gas. That's no big deal. He said, yeah, but I'm trying to call my other people so that they can meet me out here. But again, they're stuck in a meeting, so nobody's going to be able to grab my wallet. I actually need gas too. So he was like, but again, you're getting paid today. He was like, if you can just spot me some gas, I will make sure I include that in your first check or whatever, because you're getting paid for today again. I said, great. I'm not going to blow this opportunity here. My new boss forgot his wallet. And so, yeah, I blessed him with some gas. He pumped my gas for me, and he directed me to the way I needed to get back to, you know, venture back to New Jersey. Fast forward to our second meeting. So by this time, I told my boyfriend and I, again, we weren't engaged yet. So, you know, just a phone call letting him know how my interview went. I was so excited. I was like, wow, telling him about the job, and he was excited for me. He was like, wow, you know, this sounds like a great opportunity. He was like, they're going to train you. They're going to do all that. This is great. So I was looking forward to the second meeting. So when I went to, I would say it was a few days later. It might have been a day later. I'm not sure. But the second meeting, which was supposed to be the official meeting. So I went to the official meeting, again, almost 3-hour drive. And this time, the address that he gave was, and I didn't see when I got the address at first, because I felt like it was legit. I wasn't Googling these addresses at first. So I would just put it in my phone. And this time it took me to a car dealership. And I'm like, why am I at a car dealership? It was a huge car dealership in Maryland. And when I got there, I called because I was like, okay, I think I'm lost because I'm at a car dealership. And so he said, no, you're not lost. He said, because you're hired with us now and we need to get you a work vehicle. So we're here to pick out a work vehicle. He said, I'm pulling in right now and, just stay put. I'm like, a work vehicle? Okay. So at this car dealership, guy comes out, I see my new boss, and we're walking around a car dealership, and he was like, you got to have something reliable. You got to have something. So I'm looking at just cheaper vehicles because I don't know what he had in mind for a work vehicle, but it ended up being, he kept looking at this white Escalade, this huge, brand new, newer white Escalade, fully loaded. And he was like, this one right here. He said, how do you feel about this? You think you can, drive? Now, I was used to, because my first vehicle was a van, and any vehicle I had after that was big vehicles. So that's what I was used to. I wasn't used to driving like a smaller car. So I was like, yeah, I'm sure I could drive that. But in my mind, I'm like, this is going to be expensive. I'm like, what? What the heck is going on? But again, I thought I was walking into a huge blessing. So he was like, okay, we want to test drive this one. So he's talking to the car dealership guy, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to let her test drive it. And so he said, was asking him different things. He was like, I'm going to, whatever I get today is going to be paid in full, going to pay cash. So I'm thinking, this is legit. Who does that? This is going to be a walk on. You're going to have me drive off the lot with a car that's fully loaded, fully paid for, and it's a brand new vehicle, and it's supposed to be a work vehicle. But he also said, use it for your personal vehicle, but, you can still keep your personal vehicle, but this is going to be the one that we require you for traveling and different things. So I'm like, okay. We test drive the Escalade. So I'm in this Escalade. I'm loving the features. I'm like, wow, this is cool. This is really nice. And of course, while he was talking to the guy, I'm taking pictures of it. I'm posting it on my social media because I had already asked people on my social media, and some of you will remember, I don't know if you remember me posting this and asking for your prayers for this job. And I posted pictures of the Escalade, and I said, wow, they are at a dealership with me and they're getting me a work vehicle. So people were chiming in on my social media. I'm trying to be discreet about that because I'm like, wow, this is crazy. I didn't know I was qualified, but I thought of stories from the Bible. I'm like, there's people that weren't qualified, but God used them. I was like, maybe this is something that I'm not going to question God if this is a blessing he has for me. So I test drove the vehicle. I was like, man, I fell in love with it. I'm like, this is great. So when we got back to the dealership after test driving it, he was like, this is the one. He was like, so I'm going to do the paperwork. So, okay. So he was inside of the dealership for the longest time. So now I'm just chatting with people on social media. I'm reaching out to my boyfriend at the time, and I'm saying, look at this. I'm showing him the pictures. I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like a sports agent office secretary. I'm like, who would have ever thought? Like, I've always wanted to do better, but this was great. I couldn't wait to tell my parents about this. This was something that I woke up one morning filling out applications online and never knew I was going to stumble on something so big. So He's in there for a while. Okay, I'm not impatient because I know that I'm about to get this Escalade work vehicle. So after some time went by, he came out and he said, listen, I'm going to have to come back. So I'm going to have to go get this guy his money. He said, so, but that's going to conclude our meeting for today. He was like, you don't have to worry about anything. The car, I'm going to see if they can get the car delivered to you. No issues there. I'm like, okay. So he was like, tomorrow I'm going to have them pick you up. He said, so the car's going to be delivered sometime probably later this week, but I'm going to have my limo sent to you so you don't have to drive here, and I just need your address. I said, I don't mind driving here. Something in that moment when he said my address, because when I filled out the application, I put my town, but I never put, I don't know what it was. I never put something, there was nothing on there. Matter of fact, there was nothing. It said, what state do you reside in? And the reason was because they didn't mind what state, because apparently, football. So you travel some of the time. So they didn't care. I didn't have a question on the application for my address. So he verbally asked me for it, and he had his phone out. He was like, I'm going to send my limo guy to you to pick you up tomorrow so you don't have to drive all the way out here. And we're going to go to the office and you're going to meet the rest of the team. So, all the agents are the people who send out the agents. So I'm like, okay, but something told me not to give him my address, because prior to that, okay, this would happen. Prior to that, we drove, he was in his vehicle, and when we were at the dealership, I guess, I don't know, the guy said, hey, did you guys need something he wanted to go get? He was like, oh, I got to go grab something. He was like, you could just follow behind me. I forget. I don't know what it was. He said, I have to make an important call. I have to collect my thoughts. He was like, just follow behind me. I'm just going to run to the store real quick, and I'm probably just going to grab a bite. You need something to eat? I'm like, no, I don't need it. He said, you sure? We've been here at the dealership for a while. Yes, that's what happened. He took a break at the dealership. They stopped doing paperwork. He wanted to go get something to eat. I didn't want anything, but I followed behind him in my van. When we got to a stoplight, something, I don't know what it was, but I wanted to take a picture of his license plates, because I wasn't all naive. There, I had a part of me where when I would get a nudge to do something told me to take a picture of his older Escalade. I wanted the license plates and everything. So when we got to a stoplight, I pulled my phone out and I went to go take a picture. Okay, so I'm taking a picture. He must have been looking in his rearview mirror, because my phone rang. And when my phone rang, I'm like, hello? And mind you, we're at a traffic light. He was like, hey, are you all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. He was like, well, what are you doing? I said, I'm behind you, following you. He was like, oh, okay. I was just making sure you were fine. I thought you were trying to call me. I saw your phone. I thought you taking a picture or something? I was like, no. But because he questioned me about taking a picture, that was a red flag to me. That was the first red flag that I had. So fast forward, we go back to the dealership. He spent more time in the dealership, and then that's when he came out and said, hey, I'm going to send my limo guy, and asked for my address. And I said, you know what? Not a big deal. I don't need a limo person to pick me up. I'll drive here. He said, are you sure? I'll send my guy. I just need your address. But something told me not to give him my address, and I didn't. So I go home, and, I'm waiting for, just a call or something, because he was going to finish up at the dealership. And he said, I don't need you to wait here because this is going to take a little long. We're just going over paperwork and stuff. I'm paying in cash, so it takes longer. I don't know if that's true or not. I never paid for a car in cash soon as I went into, unless it was a used vehicle. I've never walked into a dealership and outright paid for a brand new vehicle. So I don't know how that works. Usually I finance, so I didn't know. So I just didn't question it. I left the dealership. So when I got back to New Jersey, I'm making calls. I'm like, wow, I can't believe this happened. I'm so excited, and we were supposed to go. I think I had 3 meetings. I went to another meeting, okay? And this meeting took, and mind you, I was never meeting any other, it was always an excuse for why the other people weren't there. So when I was at this one meeting, it ran over. So it was at a hotel. So I'm like, okay, this is legit. So it was like we were in the lobby though. It wasn't, he was like, oh, my people, he's like, this is a busy business. So a lot of times they'll be they'll be having issues trying to get out to other meetings because they're dealing with other agents and there's issues. There might be issues with the football players, whatever the case might be. So we're in this lobby, we're having this conversation, and it's getting late. I'm like, it was paperwork I'm filling out. Again, nothing with thank goodness there was nothing with my address. So just going over all this stuff, and I remember it getting late. He said, it's late. You shouldn't have to drive to, home this late. Do you have someone to watch? So I call my family member who by now my children are at a daycare or whatever, they're out of school. And I call and I'm like, hey, I'm going to stay. It's late and it's getting dark and I don't want to have to drive 3 hours home. So he was like, yeah, the company will put you up in a room, whatever. Legit, because I literally had a room. So I called my boyfriend. I'm like, hey, I'm going to stay here. It's late. The meeting went over. They got me a room. So I remember my new boss showing me where my room, opens the door. I'm like, okay, wow, this is nice. So I'm put up in this hotel room, and in the morning I was gonna travel back to New Jersey. So he was like, oh, I'll be back. I had a couple more papers to fill out. I waited in the room. I'm waiting. And I got a weird feeling because the time had went by. And I'm like, something's not right. Where's this guy at? He's not coming back. What, So I picked up the number and I looked at what the front desk number was. So I called and I said, hey, I'm in room, whatever it was. And I'm just seeing if there was a gentleman down there, whatever. And the woman in the lobby said, no, the room that you're in, I'm still waiting for a payment. I'm like, what? She said the gentleman, I don't know why. They gave him the room, but he was like, oh, I have to run out and go, grab. She said I was still waiting for him to come back to make a payment, but, he told me he wanted to see the room to make sure the room was okay. She said, we actually forgot about that because we had other guests. He never came back. He was supposed to be looking at the room. And I'm like, why would you have given him? So here I'm in this room where this man told them that he was going to bring the key back. He wanted to inspect it. He said because he had issues with rooms before, he wanted to make sure the room was good before he agreed to get the room for the night. And I said, this sounds crazy. But yet he gave me the key, like, this is your room, I'll be back. I took the key back to the lobby, and I left. Now, the crazy part is, I don't remember leaving my purse anywhere around. I didn't remember if I set my purse down, and I don't know how it happened, but I do remember having cash in my purse. I had cash for tolls. And I might have had a little extra cash, but when I was going through tolls, I didn't see my cash, and I'm like, oh crap, I'm in Maryland. I have to get to New Jersey. I have no cash. I didn't want to stop at a store because I don't know where this man went. I didn't know what store. I'm like, it'll be my luck that I go to a store where he's at. So I just said, okay, I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to get an express lane, and I'm going to tell these people there was an emergency. I don't know how I'm going to do it. At the time, I didn't have like the easy pass that'll take you through the express lane, but I don't know. I just had this thought. There was these tractor trailers, and every time just to get back to New Jersey, I would get an express lane and I would have my car, and I don't recommend anybody try this because I was getting out of that state in fear. So it was a little bit of fear because it just seemed odd. I got in between two tractor trailers, and my little van was in between. And so I was just riding through the express lane. Anytime I got to those points where you had to pay, I was just going through the express lane. It would just so happen trucks were there at the right time, and I rode through. Well, when I got back to New Jersey, there's the last toll spot that you have to ride through. You have to give them a ticket. I didn't have a ticket that, normally comes out of the machine to show how far you came. You have to make that, that last payment. So the guy, he's like, I need your ticket. I was like, I don't have one. He said, you don't have a ticket? And he's like, well, where did you come from? I said, I'm coming from Maryland. And I said, he said, well, how did you not get a ticket? You're from the first time you got on to the highway. And basically, I told him I was dealing with emergency. I was trying to get out of that state. Something weird was happening. I said, I don't have a ticket. He's like, well, normally I'm supposed to have you park your car, and, we would have to call to get, this straightened out. But thank God he believed me. He said, but you know what? It's late. My shift's about to end. He was like, you know what? I got it. Don't worry about it. And he let me go through. So I was grateful for that. Okay. So I told myself, listen, I'm not going to deal with these people anymore. Something's not right. Something's not right, because so I get home. Okay. When I got home, I'm getting a call from the dealership, because remember, I didn't stay in. That was the next meeting. I got a call from the dealership when I got home, which was odd because I'm thinking the car, I forgot about the Escalade. It's supposed to be delivered to my house in a few days. I got a call from the dealership, and the car dealership had my number, which he must have gave him my number. So I answered. He was like, hey, this is so-and-so from the car dealership. You were here the other day. You test drove a car. The gentleman that you were with, we did a bunch of paperwork with, he said, but we kept our doors open till later than the time that night. And we waited because he said he was going to bring the cash back. He said, and we had to end up closing because we stayed there late. Now, when somebody's making a cash deal with a vehicle, we were looking out for them, okay, he's going to come back. He said eventually we had to leave, but now the next day had happened. He's like, he never came back. I'm like, can somebody say God right now? Because this is nothing but only he got me through this, because this gets really weird right now, because whoa, this is like a movie. When I tell people some of the stories in my life, I could actually write a book about, because I don't know if anybody else experienced this kind of stuff. No, I didn't think of scammers. I didn't think of anything out there with people doing, because I genuinely wanted to trust people. And I saw the good in people. I didn't think people were out here trying to get over on people like this. Okay. So I did trust that I was walking into a huge blessing. So I'm hearing this and I'm like, okay, this guy just told me, oh, my car's going to be delivered, my work vehicle, my new Escalade. So now I'm like, okay, I have to block numbers. I have to do stuff. So I get a call from the guy. All right. He calls me. He was like, hey, I'm just reaching out to you. Your car's going to be delivered. And I'm like, He's like, so how was your stay at the hotel? Did you have an issue? He said, I had an emergency that night. I had to leave. I know I told you I'd be back with more paperwork, but I had an emergency. He said, so I apologize, but, you know, I can reimburse you for the room payment. See, that's the thing. He thought that I stayed the whole night, which I didn't. I left. Talking about he's going to reimburse me with the room payment? Like, really? So, with that being said, I ended up listening to him on the phone. I was listening to him, and by this time, I knew this guy, this whole thing, I don't even know at that time what was he going to gain from a single mother. You're pretending that she has this job, and you're making me go through all these motions. I'm doing paperwork that I believe this was a legit thing. I'm believing these agents, these people are out here with agents, and people were busy, so it seemed legit to me. And again, I started looking up, I looked up the football team he said he played for on the NFL, and I'm like, I couldn't see anything about the name that he gave me. And he was like, I questioned. I said, listen, the one time I said, so I didn't see anything about you playing for football. And then he sent me pictures, blurry pictures of somebody getting out of a big like truck, and they were always blurry. And he was like, yeah, this was me, and this is me with the team. And I looked at the team and I didn't see it. And I was like, well, maybe I'm not looking at the right year. And I kept on making excuses for, this person's he's not lying to me. He's saying he played with the team and he got injured, and now he's become this owner of this business to help players with their agents. So, so my social media people were contacting me like, wow, how'd you get that job? And I'm just saying, wow, they tried to send me a limo. And this time I'm just like telling people about the blessing I thought I had. So on the phone with him, he's like, yeah, I just need you to come out one more time, and I'm going to pay you for the time because I feel like you did a lot of running back and forth. I already knew I wasn't coming out to see this person again and pretend that this job was a thing. He gave me this address. So he gave me this address and he said, tomorrow you can meet me. And because I had told him, I said, listen, I'm not interested. I feel like I'm being swindled. I told him, I said, I feel like I don't know what this is, but this is not for me. I said, I'm not interested in a job anymore. So you don't have to contact me anymore. And so he said, well, one more time, I just want to pay you for your time. He's like, you never gave me an address, so at least let me pay you for the time that you've come out all this time. So he gives me this address. And he's like, we can meet tomorrow around 2 p.m. or whatever the time it was. So I end the phone call, and my boyfriend at the time, who ended up being my husband later on, I think he came over, or I either went to him or he came over. And I remember telling him about this because he started to get questionable about that. He said, I don't know about this. This whole thing doesn't seem right. And I'm now feeling like, he was like, yeah, this doesn't seem legit. He was like, you don't have any experience in this. Yeah, they're saying they'll train you, but a professional place is not going to meet you in park. They're not going to meet you. You've never been to the office. You've been to a hotel lobby. They put you up in a room that they didn't even pay for and said they had an emergency. It just sounds crazy. So, can somebody say naive? Oh my goodness. What was I actually thinking? I was thinking that this is going to be great. As a single mother, this was going to be something great. Something that I can actually say, look, tell my family members, look, I'm doing something great, and not realizing I already had something great. I had just got a promotion to be an assistant manager. I was doing fine. But I thought I was walking into a huge blessing. I Googled at the direction of my boyfriend. He said, why don't you Google the address they're going to have you going to tomorrow? even though I wasn't going to go. He said, just Google it. Because when he's telling me, oh, I'm going to give you a paycheck, whatever, there's a part of me that said, hey, and I even said to my boyfriend, maybe you could go with me and we can get this check, whatever, single mother. But then I was like, I don't think so. But I Googled the address anyway, just to see. And when I Googled the address, my heart sank. It literally sank, because the address was this field. It was a field. I Googled it a couple times because I said, well, maybe I'm putting in the wrong address. And then there was pictures of the address, of the location. No buildings around, just a field that looked like it was, because I saw old park equipment. It just like rusty park equipment in some of the pictures, but it was just a empty field, like in a wooded area. And my heart sank, because I believe at this time I hadn't been Googling where these places were going to be. And the one time I did, it was an empty field, no houses around, no buildings around. And I showed my boyfriend and he said, wow. He was like, now this guy knows that you probably know, hey, this is not a legit company. Now you're saying you don't want to work for them no more, or whatever the case might be. So why are they taking you to this field? My heart sank. I blocked numbers. I did report this because I didn't want this to happen to someone else. I don't know what eventually was going to happen, but I know that empty field might have been my resting place had I gone there. Had I gone there the next day thinking that I was walking into a huge blessing, I might have been walking into my resting place had I continued with this, thinking that this was legit. It was a field with nothing there, no houses and no buildings. Why were we meeting there? You were going to give me a check in an empty field? No. My gut was telling me, don't do it. I reported this person. I reported this whole scam of whatever it was. But I was just so upset with myself for believing that this was even a thing. And then I started to say, you know what, this is a lesson. You cannot believe everything. Just because it's online, just because it's posted somewhere doesn't make it right, doesn't make it true. That blessing that I thought was a huge blessing that I was walking into was a lesson. It was a lesson to just don't believe everything. And as I said, the saying, everything that glitters isn't gold. I was okay with the job that I had. My job was fine. Me and my children were fine. As a single mother, we were fine. But like I said, I was always looking for the next big thing. What can I do better? Always trying to better myself, which there's nothing wrong with trying to better yourself. Nothing at all. But just research things, look up things. Don't believe everything that everybody says, because people are out here and some people don't have good intentions. I might not have been here today to actually share this story with you. But like I said, the saying says everything that glitters isn't gold. And yes, that sparkly, shiny new Escalade, everything that it just seemed like I was test driving things, doing things that I thought, okay, was helpful. I paid for this person's gas that day when they said they forgot their wallet, because I had a kind heart and I felt like this job is going to pay me back that 10 times over. So it wasn't an issue, but just know that everything that glitters isn't gold, and some things are actually a lesson and not a blessing. He was never a part of the Ravens. That was never a person that was on the team. And as I watched crime shows, the crazy part is, over the years after that, I'm pretty sure I saw that person being wanted on a crime show. That's scary. Look just like the person. And I'm like, whoa, that could have been me. That could have been me. That huge blessing was one of my lessons. And just be safe out here, be smart. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And you guys have to excuse me because my team is playing. I have to actually go watch some real football players play. I hope that you guys got something from this story. I would have said enjoyed this story, but this wasn't really a story to enjoy, but it definitely just something to be an eye-opener, to just keep your head on a swivel, because you can't really trust everybody, okay? Don't be naive with things. Research things, Google things, look up things to get more information. Don't put yourself in harm's way. And again, I have to go watch some real football players play. Have a good one till next time. Oh, be safe this week, everyone, until we meet again. And just a note, like I said, I'm going to say it whenever we get together, okay? A positive mentality is a destined reality, okay? Say that to yourself. A positive mentality is a destined reality. Your mental health is important, and try to bring much positivity to you every time that we are on here and we're streaming and we're doing our podcast. But have a safe rest of your day and take care.